interview which is not real, but it appears to be real. So that is practicing almost real interview in the same setup, in the same situation, with the same questions, with the same flow. So you can. Hi everybody, how are you all? Welcome back to another session of learning English with me. Today we are going to cover the topic of interview. How to speak fluent English during an interview. I know this is one of the most sought after topic, and you have even requested me a lot in my live sessions to take this up. Okay, so today I'm taking up this topic, that is how to speak fluently during interviews. Because speaking English is very important when you're giving an interview, and speaking fluently during that interview is equally important, because that is how you're going to leave a positive impression on the recruiters, isn't it? Everyone wants to speak fluent English during interviews. So do you want to know the secrets? So today I'm going to give you 10 tips. 10 tips on how to speak English fluently during an interview. Any interview. So are you ready for this? I'm Shivangi Gupta, your English language tutor, certified by University of Cambridge, the UK. And you're watching Speak English with Shivangi. So let's move forward with the lesson today. Speaking English during interviews. I know it's very important, and a lot of times this is one factor why people are not able to communicate. They might have skills, they have everything, but they're not able to convince the recruiter that they are the right people for this particular job role or the particular job roles they're applying for, right? So the thing is that in order to convince the recruiter, in order to communicate, in order to present yourself, you need to speak. Language is that particular medium through which you connect with other person. And here we're talking about English. Almost all the interviews take place in English language. So speaking English during any interview is a crucial part. Now a lot of people, they get nervous, and the thing is that they're nervous about speaking English in an interview. They don't know how exactly they have to express themselves, how to speak fluently, because the nerves work in two ways. Number one, they're nervous because of the interview they have to face a panel, and the another effect of this nervousness, another way the things affect them and make them nervous, is that they are scared of speaking English. So it's like they have double pressure on their heads. But how to deal with this pressure and how to take things up absolutely lightly and speak fluent, elegant English during any interview. So let's begin. Let's begin with the 10 tips. And the tip number 1 is be calm and composed. Now, this is very important. This is the first step in speaking fluent English during your interview. But this is something that you need to do before going inside that interview room, the venue. So the thing is that you have to calm yourself, compose yourself. Because if you're not calm and composed, it will affect the way you speak. It's going to affect your speech. Because when you are nervous, the thing is that you're not able to structure your thoughts. Whatever you have to say, you might have prepared well. But if you're nervous, if you're not calm, if you're not composed, you will not execute confidence. See, person who's sitting in the interview panel, your interviewer, he or she will be able to judge by looking at you whether you are executing that confidence or not. So if you're calm and composed, it radiates confidence, and when you speak, same confidence is radiated when you speak English, when you speak during the interview. That's why it's very important for you to remain calm and composed. Now what you have to do is, I always suggest that reach your venue 10 minutes early. Why? So that you can relax. Do not go over everything. Do not panic during this time. Reach there 10 minutes early. This will also leave a great impression on your recruiter. Plus, you'll have time to relax. And In this time, what you can do is you can compose your thoughts, you can go over your skills, your achievements, and take some deep breaths, calming breaths. So that's the first step. Let's move on to the tip number 2. Now, the tip number 2 is prepare your answers in advance. Now, this is something that you need to do. Prepare your answers in advance. And you might have heard this before, but today I'm going to tell you something different. That is, whenever you're going for a new interview, prepare your answers once again. What people do is they prepare an answer and then they stick to it through years and years. If they're going to 5 different interviews, they're going to stick to the same answer. What they do is they learn it wholeheartedly. Do not do that ever. You need to prepare your answers. You don't have to speak out something that you crammed up. You don't have to cram an answer word to word. Because when you cram an answer word to word, it shows. Somebody who's taking the interview is an experienced person. They'll be able to realize that you're just speaking things out. You will not have any emotions. Believe me, this happens. So do not cram things up. No, that is, do not learn them word by word. Do not learn them by heart. Just prepare your answers in advance. A lot of people, they're so confident that they do not even prepare the answers, which is also wrong. Sometimes this can create a jumbledness of thoughts in your mind, and you might not be able to structure your answer. You might take a lot of time. So value the time that interviewer is giving you and value your own time. Be prepared. You cannot prepare for everything. I know there are going to be questions that are related to things that you don't know. Some unexpected questions are always there from the part of recruiters. I know that. But then there are some common questions which you need to cover. For example, things like, tell us about your past work experience. Tell us something about yourself. Tell us why do you want to apply for this particular position. So these are some common questions. There are common questions that you need to prepare in advance. So prepare them in advance. What you have to do is you have to just make an outline of the particular answer. Just make an outline and then stick to that outline when you are giving answers. What you have to do is go with the flow. Do not learn it, just speak and go with the flow. This will increase your confidence because you are prepared. Plus, you will be authentic. When you answer on the spot with the help of the points that you prepared in advance, you will feel more authentic. The answer will be more real and it will be a researched answer, not a learned answer. Like you know yourself. So this is going to create a very positive impression on the interviewer. Plus, you will be able to speak fluently because you will have the confidence, you will have the idea. You don't have to search for ideas on the spot. You already have ideas, you just have to speak them out. So your brain is going to process the language quickly and it will help you speak more fluently. Tip number 3. This is something very important, something that you need to do during you're answering the question. So during interview, apply this, that is, speak slowly and clearly. So when you're giving an answer, do not rush, don't rush the words out. Speak slowly and speak clearly. Speak each word completely. So what happens is that when a person is nervous or when you want to speak something in an interview, sometimes you start speaking too fast. It's like you're speaking so fast and you get out of breath. In that situation, it creates nervousness. When you're out of breath, the lack of oxygen, it makes you nervous. And hence, it's like sometimes you go blank. You don't know what you were saying. So these things happens. The thing is that the key to speaking fluent English during an interview is speak slowly. When you speak slowly, you'll have time to structure your answer. You'll have time to form sentences. Plus, the listener, the interviewer will have time to process your information because you're giving important information. Each word that you're saying, it matters. It's telling the recruiter about your skills, your achievements, why you're perfect candidate for that particular job role. You're trying to convince them. And if you're trying to convince them, don't you think you should give it time? Right? So speak slowly and speak clearly. Even if you're using simple English, simple sentences, if you will speak slowly and clearly, it will give you confidence, it will make you fluent, and you'll sound more beautiful. Whatever you're saying, it will be more understandable by the listener. They will be able to understand it. Believe me. So do not rush. Don't just speak everything out quickly. A lot of times, what people think is that interviewer will not listen to us. That's why they start speaking quickly. They start speaking so fast that they want to get all the information out at a single time. But interviewer is there to listen to you. Do not worry. Just speak slowly. They will give you time because they know that you're a human, not a robot who needs time to speak. That's why speak slowly and clearly in order to speak fluent English. You will sound more fluent. Tip number 4. Use professional English. Now, using professional English is very important because if you're using professional English, if you're using professional words, that means it shows that you are a professional person. Somebody who is really keen on working, who is dedicated to the field they work in. Because when you use professional English, it creates a very positive impression. Recruiters are immediately impressed by you. Plus, you sound more fluent. It's like you're a career-oriented person. Because sometimes speaking professional English is considered directly proportional to your professionalism and your intelligence and your work performance. Can you understand? Speaking few professional words can change your whole game, your whole interview game. So speak professional words that are related to your particular field of area. So speaking some words like agenda, outcome, instead of result, say outcome, say agenda, say project, say manage. Learn professional English, learn some professional words. You don't have to give hours and you don't have to just do so much efforts while learning professional English. You just have to learn few professional words that you can use whenever you're telling about your experience, your work experience. When you do that, it creates a very good impact on the recruiters. So, and whatever you're saying, the emphasis, it increases tenfold. So imagine someone who's saying, yeah, I have done work with a team of 10 people. Instead, another person is saying, I have led a team of 10 members dedicatedly. Can you see the difference? It's the same line. The thing is that some words are being replaced. The first line was a line that was said in a simple basic English. Another line was said in a more professional, formal way. It makes a huge difference. Your personality looks really good. The way you speak, it executes confidence. And overall, you look more professional when you use professional language. Some formal words, formal language. So do that, do some research, learn some professional words, and then practice. You can practice it beforehand. So that's the thing. Use professional English. Interview tip number 5. That is active listening. Now, active listening is very important because active listening means a two-way communication. a healthy communication which is required during an interview. A lot of times people treat it as an exam, like they're there to answer, and there are going to be 4 to 5 people or maybe 2 people who are sitting in front of them, and they are going to ask them questions. They treat it as some kind of an examination. It is not an examination. It is basically a formal event where you communicate. And in order to communicate, you need to be an active listener. When you listen actively, it means you're showing a positive front to the interview panel. It means whenever you're listening, through your body language, your eye contact, through your small responses, you're letting them know, the interviewers, that you're listening to them. Active listening is very important because sometimes if you're absent-mindedly just saying whatever you want to say, it creates a bad impression. A good listener is a person who can communicate well, and if you are applying for a high post, any person who's in a leadership role, communication skills are must. So active listening during interview is must, because when you're able to actively listen, you are going to understand whatever they are saying in a better way, in a positive way. And when they're asking you a question, they can see that, yeah, you are interested to answer. It's not like you're there just for the job and you're nervous and you're out of your breath and you're physically present there, but mentally you're someplace else. Do not do that. Whenever they're asking you something, do not start preparing answer as soon as you hear the first word. A lot of times people do that. Hear them out with your full attention. Listen with your full attention. And then give some cues like a nod of your head, the eye contact, maybe yes, sure, of course, ma'am, of course, sir. These small phrases that you can use, the responses that you give, is a part of active listening, which shows that you're just not listening absent-mindedly. You are there in the conversation, even though you are a listener, you are an active part of that conversation, which builds a positive relationship, which is important if you want to crack your interview. Building that positive relationship is something that can do wonders. It can work in your favor. So listen actively, be attentive whenever they are asking you something, whenever they're asking you to add information. And if they want to interrupt you, you should be actively paying attention to them even when you're speaking, so that you can anticipate and then you can give them chance to speak. This way they know that you're paying them respect and you are wholeheartedly involved in the interview process. That's very important. That's necessary. So that's what I want to say. Listen actively. Practice active listening. That's the thing. Tip number 6. Number 6 is to take your time while answering a question. Take your time. It's important to take your time. A lot of times people are in a hurry. They think that a quick response is what is needed, but it's not like that. You are allowed to take your time whenever you're answering. And if you take your time, it actually appears that you are more professional, like you are giving a thought, just not jumping right in. You're not overconscious. A person who plans their move, plans their answers, they are considered as intellectual people. I don't know, but that's the psychology. That's how it is taken out. The thing is that if you're preparing, taking your time, just 1 minute, just few seconds, it's completely fine. The person who's taking the interview, they understand this. And it's actually going to help you a lot, because if you're taking your time, if you need some time and you're taking it, you'll be able to answer in a better way. You will be able to answer in a fluent way. Otherwise, you might end up fumbling. You might fumble. You might end up repeating lines after lines that are not going to provide any new information. The same thing you're just repeating again and again. You might get stuck, like you don't know what to answer. You might get nervous suddenly. And it happens. It happens. So the thing is that just take your time. If you think that you're gonna take more time than 10 seconds, just ask your interview, may I take a few minutes, please? May I take just few seconds? I just need to think. Okay? Let me just think about it for a second, please. I request. So you can use all these phrases. You can just request the interviewer to allow you time to think, and they will give you time, believe me. So take your time. If you think that you need some time in order to just label the points or maybe structure the points, just do that. Do that and take your time and then speak. You'll feel that you are more confident. You have the content in a better way to speak, and you will be able to speak more clearly with a better flow. So speaking fluently is like speaking with a better flow. So you will have a better flow and you'll be able to speak fluently. Tip number 7. So tip number 7 is structure your answers well. Now this is very important, to structure your answer. Whenever you're preparing your answer in advance, you need to structure them. Or maybe if you're asked about a question that you haven't prepared, something that is on the spot, what you need to do is you need to take your time, just some time, and then structure it in your mind quickly. You need to have a particular structure. It's not like you're saying point 1, suddenly you say point 5, then you jump back to point 1. That's something very jumbled up. Now I'm going to explain you what is the mistake that people do here. When you don't structure your answer, what goes wrong? Okay, imagine you have total 6 points to say. 6 points. Now you have spoken about point 1, then point 2. Now you're speaking about point 3. Now when you're speaking about point 3, suddenly you remember something about point number 1. Now what will happen is, without any signal, without telling the person who's listening that you're gonna talk about point 1, you suddenly jump back to point 1. And then when you jump back to point 1, you yourself forgot what you were saying. Everything gets jumbled up. You might even miss the point 4 completely. And from that point 1, directly jump to point number 5. Point number 5. Are you understanding what I'm saying? So I hope the things are clear. This happens when you don't structure your answer well. So you have to keep a structure of the answer. Okay, I'm gonna start with my past work experience, what I did in that particular role, what kind of skills I learned, how I'm going to apply them in the future. This can be a particular structure for a particular question, right? For a particular answer. This is just an example which you can apply to some questions, right? So structure them. Just bullet points. I'm not saying write whole answers. Just in bullet points, structure your answers. When you structure them well, you have information to present in a better way. And you're able to speak in a better way. You're able to speak more fluently because you have this particular structure with you. You know what you're going to say next. You know what is required of you to say. That is the thing. So stick to point 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, then 5. And even if you have to go back to point 1, which is something important, what you can do is you can connect. For example, you are speaking about point 3, okay? You are speaking about your third company that you worked at. So I led a group of 5 people at the time. Plus, I want to add that when I was in the XYZ company, I got a similar chance to do a project. So here, like this, you can add and you can relate. If you're not connecting the things, the recruiter is going to get confused. What are you talking about? And you yourself are going to get confused. What are you talking about? And then everything, all the thoughts are going to get jumbled up and you might end up getting nervous, maybe stuck. Maybe you're not able to find words what to say, or altogether you might just end your answer just like that. Speaking everything out quickly and you'll end your answer. This happens. So structure the answer. That's the key. Tip number 8. Number 8. That is, be concise. Be concise. What is the meaning of concise? So concise is basically limited or what is required. Short, crisp, to the point. So what I want to say is, whenever you're giving an answer, stay to the point. Do not drift away. What people do is, sometimes they start rambling. Rambling is when you start speaking in a very fast manner and you provide unnecessary information which is not relevant, which is not required. So do not ramble. Do not provide information that is irrelevant, that is not required, that is not meant to be spoken at that particular time. I know that you need to tell a lot about yourself. You need to convince the recruiter. You need to explain about your skills. You need to tell about your work experience, but still remember to be concise. That is to speak only what is required, to speak what is professional, what is asked in that particular question. So if they're asking you about why you're applying for this particular job role, you should not brag about what you have done in the past too much. Don't do that. Just talking about what you have done in the past company again and again and again and again is going to create a kind of loophole, and the purpose of answering will get lost. Plus, you might end up saying, like, getting confused what to say at the end. And if you want to speak fluent English, be concise. Stay to the point. Speak in small sentences if you want, that's completely fine. But the thing is that include the information that is relevant. Include it all. I'm not saying that leave out. The information that is relevant, talk about it as much as you want. But do not drift away from the topic. Stay to the point. Answer accordingly. Answer according to the question. Be concise, to the point, crisp and clear. Okay, so the tip number 9. Number 9, that is, take pauses in between. So whenever you're speaking, it's important to take pauses. When you have to say something that you need to put emphasis on, when you want to emphasize something, maybe your skill, your work experience, or your educational qualification, your professional qualification, if you take pauses in between, it will create a great impact. You'll be able to speak more fluently if you take pauses, because you'll have time to breathe, plus you'll have time to jot down your thoughts. So it's completely fine to take pauses. Instead, I say take pauses. Instead of using a lot of filler words, instead of repeating one single line again and again, take a pause. Sometimes when you're thinking about what to answer next, you don't realize, but you end up repeating the last line that you were saying. For example, I have worked in, and then it gets repeated on until you reach the point where you've jotted all the thoughts. And then you sound a bit like unimpressive in English. So if you want to speak fluent English during interviews, take pauses so that you can think about what you have to say. Also, it will give time to the listener to process what you have said. You'll appear confident, you'll sound fluent, and you will be able to speak with a great flow. Tip number 10. So the last tip, which is really important, that is practice mock interviews. Now, mock interview is basically just like you might have heard mock test. That is interview which is not real, but it appears to be real. So that is practicing almost real interview in the same setup, in the same situation, with the same questions, with the same flow. So you can practice mock interviews. You can take help of a professional, and if a professional is not available, for example, maybe the person from whom you want to take particular mock session, that person is not available, You can also take help of Google, and you can take help of ChatGPT. So ChatGPT, sometimes it cannot answer you, obviously, cannot ask you something, but you might do a question answer kind of session with ChatGPT. Put in the question, it'll give you just some kind of answer. So do that mock question answer session. Go on Google, search some mock question answer session on Google, and practice it. Practicing mock question answer, mock interview will give you confidence. It's like you're practicing beforehand. And when you have practiced, you'll have confidence. It's like you have already faced the panel once. That initial nervousness, the first bout of nervousness that a person might feel, that is not there. So you've overcome that first hit of nervousness that a person might feel. And mock interviews make you fluent. It gives you confidence. It gives you an idea how you are going to answer. It's a great way to develop your fluency for your interviews. Okay, so that's it. That was the session for today. These were the 10 tips that I had for you. And you need to think about them, apply them, and see the change they're going to bring you, not only to the English that you're speaking, but to the whole interview process that you're going through. So the complete process will be more productive. You'll feel more confident. You'll feel an enhancement in your personality, just not your English speaking skills. Believe me. So apply everything that I've told you today and see the change. Plus, all the best for your next interview. So if you have an interview coming up, all the best. Practice well, prepare, and believe in yourself, because you are you. There is no other person like you. Okay, so that was the session. Before going, I have a small request. Please like the video, share it as much as possible, and subscribe to my channel for a new lesson each day. Now I'm gonna see you tomorrow. Till then, take care. All the best. Bye.